This is unprecedented.
Well, it happened after 9/11, right?
Well, also, I think it happened last week.
No, this
Without
is
an announcement.
All the incoming flights into Florida. It just happened to Florida.
no. That
last
did
week.
actually happen when I was flying back to Florida. They said that there were too many planes over Florida, so our flight was delayed until they could tell the planes to slow down. Basically,
Who should I be mad at? Mayor
I don't
Pete?
know. I don't
Is this
know
Mayor
yet.
Pete's fault?
Mayor Pete's gonna be all over this one. Let me
Really?
tell you.
Because let me tell you something. The only evidence that I have that the Department of Transportation is doing well is how my transportation experience is going.
I was gonna say is Mayor Pete's appearances on CNN. I never even
He does well in
considered.
those.
I never considered for a second a transportation secretary until Mayor Pete was the transportation secretary.
I got to tell you, it feels like the worst time in U.S. history to take part in air travel. And I don't know whose fault this is, but there is one person in charge in the cabinet that I got my eyes on.
It's almost like we neglected critical infrastructure in all methods of transportation in this country until it reached critical mass.
Is so the radar nationwide is down?
Well, the FAA's computers are down.
Does that also run off a floppy disk like our nuclear program?
Probably, yeah.
We have found ourselves in a place in America where a lot of giant systems are failing. The IRS, they're a giant, and I don't know how you received the news. My initial reaction was fear when I just heard all American flights grounded. I thought it was American Airlines, and I'm like, of course they've all been grounded. But
That's
no,
just a Tuesday.
yeah, it's all flights have been grounded. For how long are they saying they have any idea? Because commerce rules, and we're seeing that everywhere from Vince McMahon to Dana White in sports, and they will not allow the airline industry, as much as it loses money, they will not allow the airline industry to not be in business because of technical malfunctions for very long.
Well, right now the flights are currently grounded until 9, but Mayor Pete is on it. He tweeted, "I have been in touch with the FAA this morning about an outage affecting a key system for providing safety information to pilots. FAA is working to resolve this issue swiftly and safely so that air traffic can resume normal operations and will continue to provide updates."
If this gets in the way of Vegas for Super Wild Card Weekend, I'm going to be pissed, Mayor Pete. A strongly worded letter coming your way.
Do you guys go immediately to like Russian hacking? Do you go to the most sinister of places, or do you just arrive at, we're incompetent. We are no longer as good at flying as we used to be?
The information coming from the government is that there is no evidence of a cyber attack at this point. But I must admit, that was the first place that I went. Has there been some kind of hacking, whether from an enemy government or from just a 17-year-old who wants to fuck with the world this morning?
Did someone spill their coffee on the floppy disk? That's where my head went.
Someone had an old U2 song from Kazaa that is just wreaking havoc.
Who downloaded LimeWire on the FAA computer?
The range really is, did someone spill a cafecito on the console, or did the Russians hack us and it's the beginning of some sort of terrorist awful?
Or do we just forget to do the software update? Have we updated to the new iOS yet? No? Okay.
Maybe they started the software update last night and didn't realize how long it would take. You guys, is there ever a period in the night where there's like not any flights flying? Because the airports close at a certain point, but it feels like it's for 10 minutes. You ever get to if you have like a 5 a.m. flight and you get to the airport, you have to get there at like 4:30, maybe 4 o'clock, and they're just opening TSA. When are they closing TSA? What is that period of time?
I think it's between midnight and 4 from just personal experience.
Yeah, it's always weird when you get in on the last flight in and it's like 11:58 and you're walking to the airport and like the people are vacuuming and it's like, wait a second, you're closing for business for the day? This is bizarre. But yeah, it's happened sometime around midnight, I'd guess.
So that's when they hit update, and then 4 o'clock rolled around this morning and they were like, shit.
You started, Mike, by saying Jessica was all over this. I don't totally understand your obsession with tracking of flights or what it is. The audience may not know that this is something that you actually get consumed by on occasion.
Jess, wasn't it born out of the pandemic?
No, actually, I've been doing it longer
Or college
than that.
football head coaching beats?
That's where it started. I'm dead serious. Flight tracking had its moment like 5 or 6 years ago. And now the private private, if you fly private, they'll hide the tail number, and it's not as easy to look up who owns what flight. I do it with boats too. You used to be able to look up who owned a super yacht. If it was parked in North Cove Marina outside the old Sports Illustrated office, you could look that baby up and see who's yachting around to North Cove Marina and parking their yacht there, because that's an expensive marina to park your yacht. And now they hide it all, which is ridiculous. And now you can't even post flight tracking on Twitter because it apparently means that you're putting out assassination coordinates.
Yeah, got all in Elon's feelings. But have you ever been outside the AAA and been like, is that David Geffen's? Because his yacht's been outside of the what do I call it now? The AAA, the FTX, or
this is interesting because I just asked last night because the FTX is still on the floor, and I'm like, why is that still on the floor? And then it was explained to me that the county's involved and they need bankruptcy approval, and then I got bored halfway through the explanation, and I'm like, just leave it there. But
just leave it there for the next 2 years. Yeah, as long as it takes for you to explain this. Just leave it.
There's going to be a Supreme Court ruling about when to remove the FTX.
As long as my money is still stuck in FTX, that's as long as it stays on the court.
Jessica, are you filing your general snoopiness around this under journalism? Because it sounds like in following flights and boats, you have gotten permission to be a snoop.
It's morbid curiosity, really. It was more born out of, yes, the coach flight tracking, because that was really fun back in the day, but also just like, oh, that's a Delta flight. Wonder where that's coming from. I can look that up on my phone. And then I just started doing it, and I became aware of flight patterns and different types of aircrafts and approaches to different airports. See, it just sounds nerdy when you say it out loud.
I drove past.
Prefer to keep it to myself.
I knew something was going on, and I got a text on my phone saying all the flights were grounded, and it was right next to Miami International Airport, bumper to bumper. And I noticed that there wasn't any flights.
Also, Mayor Pete's fault, by the way.
I'm telling you,
Palmetto,
strongly worded letter
you,
collision course. So I noticed that there weren't any flights inbound or outbound, but there was one. Frontier Airlines. Just soaring through the sky.
They don't care.
They don't need computers. They run on pen and paper.
Pretty sure the pilot just licks his thumb and puts it out the window.
That's Chris Cody's flight to Buffalo. Did you wave?
Are you sure it's coaches that started this and not Dan Gilbert and LeBron?
That's same ilk, I would
derivative,
say.
Yeah,
same era too.
Yeah,
right?
SEC coaching hires, I think, predated the Dan Gilbert LeBron thing.
Dan Mullen was first.
I'm telling you, man. That was a main complaint when Elon decided to take that feature away from Twitter, was college football Twitter getting up in arms about it.
It is hard now though, because it's there's a lot of false flags. You see, why did a flight just take off from South Bend to Philadelphia's private airport? Is Brian Kelly taking the Eagles job? But it's like, no, it's just some rich guy who's going to Philadelphia from
and
South
now
Bend.
Like the college football coaches like intentionally leave from lesser known airports, and there's almost like dummy planes that get sent from the ones that actually are based in the city. You say this, Dan, like as if you're surprised. I feel like recently I've become more aware of the fervor around college football fandom and message boards, and all of these, like Twitter Spaces took off because basically college football fans just wanted a gathering place to yell about their team. I can't fathom sometimes the level of interest and the level of intensity in college football fandom. It's insanity.
I am not surprised. I just look back in history, in retrospect, at the general stupidity of tracking Tommy Tuberville's flight.
Well, the best was when, I think it was Mike Leach, rest in peace, there were rumors that he was going to take the Kansas job or something. I can't remember the details. I'm trying to look it up. But people showed up at the airport thinking he was going to get off the plane, and it was a random family on vacation. And they were like, hey.
College football really has something special about it, though, that kind of taps into that European football thing. It's the closest thing this country has to it when you compare the passion and just the batshit craziness that goes along with it. I love college football.
I wanted to ask you a couple of questions of some things happening at the University of Miami. I saw that Ed Reed took the Bethune-Cookman job, that Deion Sanders is basically allowed for an opening that I didn't think I'd see, which is Hall of Famers willing to do what Jason Taylor and Ed Reed did, which is coach at the University of Miami for a little while in the event that they could get a head coaching job and be around football and fill some of the emptiness that comes when you leave in your youth that sport. But when I saw that the University of Miami's plans for $100 million facility, that the investment only begins with Mario Cristobal and the idea that Cristobal is going to stock the cupboards with, and he's doing it with, and I don't know how he does it. I'm really unclear on how this person recruits so well, because there's no questioning that he is great at recruiting wherever it is that he is. And if it is money, and I don't know what it is.
He's consumed by it. He's consumed by it, where other coaches might be consumed by the tactics of the game. Every moment of his life is consumed by recruiting. He is fully dedicated to being good at it.
And it's money.
I think a lot of guys are consumed by it, though, aren't they? I mean, it's
being able to level the playing field in NIL is certainly helpful. But no, Mario Cristobal was a good recruiter before NIL. Mario Cristobal is just being who he's always been. One of the best recruiters in the nation. And he's really good at it. I don't know how to quantify it. He's just consumed by it.
The question that I'm asking, though, because I don't doubt that he's consumed by it, but these guys are in consuming jobs, all of them. It's an obsessive-compulsive tick that they have, and I can't imagine that there's anything more important for any of them to be good at than that. They must all be consumed by it.
No.
You can't have the ego to think that your system is going to be better than everybody else's system, so therefore you don't have to get the best players.
Lane Kiffin's that way. He's not a big recruiter. Mike Leach was the same way. Mike Leach was like, I'll get the 3 stars. There are plenty of coaches that prioritize their time and where they think their energy is best spent. And Mario Cristobal is not this reputed tactician. You don't have a schematic advantage when Mario Cristobal is your head coach. What he brings to the table is all day, all night. It's legitimately like that. He is recruiting. It's just, I understand why people say money. A lot of programs have money. A lot of programs. He is just... It is what when he thinks of himself, he thinks recruiter first.
And he's not a great coach, so he has to make up for it in recruiting, essentially.
I mean, that might be part of
it. Yes. And I tell you, there are a lot of bad coaches in college football. A lot. Some bad coaches that had success here in Miami. You can be a bad coach and be successful in that sport if you're a really good recruiter.
But you mentioned Lane Kiffin and Mike Leach. They also were at programs that often were afterthoughts, that they are the outliers. I have got to assume that everyone in that profession, Kirby Smart thinks he's smarter than everybody else. I mean, by name he is, but does he think...
That's another prime example. No, Kirby Smart is not smarter than everybody else. He's a damn good recruiter, though. Damn good. And you see right now, they ripped the sport away from Alabama, something thought impossible.
Does he not have a little more something about him, though? I feel like we got to give Kirby Smart more credit.
This is where the legend building happens. No, not necessarily.
No, he has become a really good in-game head coach also, I think.
But no one views him like Saban or like one of the...
But why not?
I don't know. I mean, he's won back-to-back national championships.
Yeah, I think he won his second national championship less than 48 hours ago. He should be there
already. Like, we have built the legends of other coaches far quicker than someone who has won back-to-back national championships.
It'll be there.
It happened literally 36 hours ago. Like, what do you want? Like a parade right now?
No, but I mean, I know way more about Lane Kiffin. I know way more about Mike Leach.
Because Lane Kiffin's a personality in the sport, and Mike Leach is too. And Mike Leach also he was the face of the air raid offense.
Josh Heupel has gotten more public praise than Kirby Smart.
That's not true. I mean, that is not true.
Lincoln Riley has.
Yeah, Lincoln. That's a great example. Lincoln Riley gets way more hype at what he's.
Lincoln Riley's also coached 3 Heisman winners. I think that's part of why.
I just think that Kirby Smart is an incredible program builder, an incredible recruiter, but I just don't think he's talked about as a great coach when very clearly he is.
I think he lost a lot until he won, and now he's won the 2 things that matter. So now the narrative is going to shift. I think it's undeniable that he's probably the best, if not top
81 and
3
15 as the coach of Georgia.
in the country.
He got really good players, and now you're saying he's a really good coach.
It's the visor. You can't give that guy credit for being a genius with that visor.
Right, it's the visor,
Yeah.
it's,
And the
it's
hair.
it's the hair,
Yeah.
and it's standing next to Saban. He was always like the very gesticular, like kind of waving his arms around coach standing next to Nick Saban. And I think a lot of Nick Saban's assistants have gotten tagged with like kind of Fredo vibes, or like, you know, they don't cut it in other places and they're not good enough, and Nick Saban's coaching tree is nothing, and so Kirby Smart was just going to be the next of him. But he inherited all of the Nick Saban stuff and has implemented it somewhere else.
Ed Orgeron, Les Miles, Larry Coker, Kirby Smart. Gene
But
Chizik.
those guys didn't have staying power, and maybe Kirby won't either. But
Kirby's
on
operating in a different era now.
He's on season number 5 of double-digit wins. He's in season number 2 of college football playoff appearances.
and
But
it
my
took
point
him-
remains. He's not Urban Meyer. He's not Nick Saban, and you're already putting him in
why
that
not?
class.
Why not though? Why isn't he Urban Meyer?
Because he's not that type of coach. In terms of success, he very well might be, which is the point that we were getting to with Mario Cristobal. You don't have to be the brightest bulb to get the best players. If you build a good program, you build a good culture, you get the recruits, people like you will paint a narrative around Kirby Smart and make him someone greater than he actually is.
There are a couple of stats I wanted to present to you guys and ask you which is better on Stetson Bennett. Michael David Smith's stat of Stetson Bennett being older than 5 playoff quarterbacks, Tua, Herbert, Lawrence, Hurts, and Purdy. Or Roger Sherman's stat of Stetson Bennett is only 8 months older than first-round pick Josh Rosen, who was on his 7th NFL team.
He's still in the NFL? What team is he on?
It's an excellent question.
It's
Billy.
a push right there, by the
I
way.
think the Browns just cut him from practice squad.
What happened there with Josh Rosen?
He didn't love
He was on the Vikings. He's on the Vikings practice squad.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Congrats. He can still get a ring.
Yep.
What started there, because he was the Rosen one at UCLA, one of the best college quarterbacks I've seen. He was great. What happened there is it started, not unlike it did for Trevor Lawrence with Urban Meyer in Arizona, where they've just fired everyone after giving them extensions. They've let everyone go. They've come close to ruining Kyler Murray with whatever was happening there organizationally. There was a stat. I saw this in the middle of the season, and I couldn't believe it, that the team with the best road record at the time over the last 2 years was the Arizona Cardinals with like an 11-3 road record, because Kyler Murray would go out there and just do loop-de-loops and run around and try and save games. But he clearly hasn't grown at all as a quarterback. And now the GM leaves, and put it on the poll, Guillermo, please. Has Cliff Kingsbury gotten less attractive? Cliff Kingsbury gets fired 10 months after signing an extension, which is just, I mean, he was good enough 10 months ago, and then the season collapses on you for a variety of reasons. It could have been predicted, given that he was 23 and 25 at Texas Tech, and yet still, it's fairly amazing that Kingsbury got that job. It really is.
Yes, it is amazing. I think I keep hearing people say, like, well, the college football to NFL coach thing, just like, it doesn't work out. And I'm like, yeah, because they keep hiring like mediocre college football coaches. Like, Matt Rule is a good college football coach. Don't get me wrong. He did fine at Baylor after they went through that massive scandal, but he wasn't like a great college football
But Jess,
coach.
it didn't work for Saban. That's like
Didn't work for Saban and Urban
right.
Meyer.
Yeah, that was
who
like
are-
20 years ago. And Urban Meyer, I think, is a special case. I don't know
But those
how to
are the
even
top two on the medal
I don't
stand.
know. Jim Harbaugh.
Well, no. It worked for
Oh,
Harbaugh.
you mean the top two college football coaches?
of all time.
Well, I think my point is, like, Jim Harbaugh was a really good college football coach and was a good NFL coach. I would like to see a really good college football coach get hired in the NFL and then make that clarification.
They've shown
and
the
distinction.
graphics of college football coaches coming into the NFL, and Harbaugh's record sticks out like a sore thumb. The success that he had.
Pete
at that
Carroll is
school.
another example
Yeah.
of a really good college football coach. Won a lot of games at USC, coached a lot of great players, did really well in the NFL. Matt Rule and Cliff Kingsbury being part of that narrative is funny to me, because when I saw them get NFL jobs, I was like, wow, that's incredible that they're getting these head coaching opportunities when I would expect, them to maybe become an offensive coordinator or something first.
It's weird to say, but I also think Saban would have figured it out.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong on this, because I think my theory on this, I've been hearing this since Jimmy Johnson took the Dallas job, and obviously he had success in the pros as well. Don't most coaches fail?
Right.
It's hard.
most coaches.
It's hard. Like
It's not a college problem.
Not college football coaches. Just it's hard to have sustained success in that league when everything is made equal. All the games are 3-point games, and you don't have one of the quarterbacks. Like it's hard for anybody to have success under those circumstances. Kingsbury's greatest failure is that he had the quarterback. Like we all saw the quarterback play well.
We think he had the quarterback.
But we all saw him play well. Like
on the road. Do it at home.
Okay, very good.
I don't think I've ever said that about a quarterback in the history of doing this show.
Do it at home. I mean, I don't understand how you even arrived there.
Well, because you said his record was so good on the road. I mean,
I said Arizona's record over a couple of year period was the best in the league. Let's turn over to this Heat game. The day after Mike Shore complains that the Heat are impossible to watch because all they do is shoot poorly and take free throws, the Miami Heat set a record by making 40 straight free throws. I think Jimmy Butler had 30-something points and like 5 or 6 made baskets or something absurd.
It was 6.
But during the game, and I think this was my favorite thing, it's not quite rising to the level of Jimmy Butler and Spo are fighting on the sideline during a rare 5-game losing streak, and Udonis Haslem has to step in. But the Heat season so far has gone so that what passes for scandal these days, instead of that, is Dwayne Deadman, who is furious because Highsmith has taken all his minutes because of how bad the Heat are whenever Deadman's on the court. Like, they're great when Bam's on the court, plus minus. Deadman goes out there, and they're terrible. Highsmith has taken all his minutes. In the middle of the game yesterday, a furious Deadman, and the Heat are short-handed. Like, they got nobody. Gets ejected because he's fighting with Spo about something. I don't know the details. And then, in the middle of things, a Theragun. A muscle massage
Love those things.
gun of some sort gets hurled onto the middle of the court, and Deadman gets ejected.
I mean, that is as unprofessional as like. I can't believe that the Heat have had one of these 2 years in a row. How wildly unprofessional is that?
The mechanic. What he does.
He threw away one of the tools.
And speaking of what he does, Udonis Haslem's job at this point is just to step in.
To prevent that.
He's like the henchman of the bald security guy. It's just the two of them are restoring order on the Heat sideline.
Can we please address how wonderful this is a controversy? First of all, if a player of some magnitude had done this, it might be something that's leading SportsCenter. But because it's Dwayne Deadman,
it chucked a Theragun. Like Victor,
I didn't even know about this.
Victor-
I'm
Was the
watching video
Theragun
now.
on when he chucked it? Was it just
Imagine
there?
Kyrie
Or, like,
did that.
might have looked
I
like
mean,
something else at that point.
It might have just like
you
jumped
mean?
out of his hand. Those things are very powerful. Sometimes if you're using them and you let go for a second,
Right.
they have a mind of their
The
own.
third setting, yeah.
It's got great branding.
I've never
because
used the third setting. You use the third setting?
Yeah. Occasionally.
Jesus.
Theragun.
neither of you saw it, incidentally, because there's no way it would have vibrated to where it ended up on the court.
I'm watching it now for the first
to get
time.
him ejected. Like, it wouldn't have just bounced over there.
Oh,
It
you've
had
never
to-
used the
it-
third
it-
setting
no,
then, Dan.
I have, and it wouldn't do that.
Theragun's got such brilliant marketing behind it because we've had massagers, but we've never had a massager that looks like a gun. And that tapped into something primal and American in us. And all of a sudden, these things are flying off the racks. Everybody has to have it. They have athletes promoted on Instagram. It's a massager. We've had them for ages, but it's shaped like a gun. And DeAndre Hopkins is telling me to use it.
I did not know until last night when Lefko said it during the broadcast. They said that Jimmy Butler, because he was being guarded by one of the great names in sport, Lou Dort, that Jimmy Butler was headed to the Dorture chamber. I was not aware that
So awesome.
I was not aware that was a thing until last night, that anyone called the defense of Lou Dort. I have been aware of Lou Dort for a long time just because I love that as a name, being locked down by Lou Dort. The Dorture chamber as a nickname.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's great.
I wish that Oklahoma City was better, and they're fun. They are a fun basketball team, a young basketball team. And I wish Lou Dort was better so that the Dorture chamber is something that I could sell merch around because it is it's a great nickname.
Is it the fact that his full name is 2 syllables? Just
Yes.
Lou Dort.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what it is. Comedically,
Also,
that's...
Dort is I never heard Dort before as a
Lou
surname.
also, but Lou is also. I know Lou Williams has done a lot on behalf of Lou's, but if I just tell you that guy over there is named Lou and his last name is Dort, you're like, he's many things. A great defensive basketball player is not one of them. He's somebody I saw in IT. Lou Dort had some expertise I needed, and I also needed a highlighter and some staples, and he gave them to me in the office.
He's also one of these athletes that is never just Lou or just Dort. He's always Lou Dort.
It has to be Lou Dort. You're right.
Or
You
the
have to say
Dorture. But if he rises to a certain level, he can become the nickname. If you're good enough, you can become the Dorture chamber.
Lou has to be short for something, though.
Yes, it is.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And it's not Lewis.
It's Lugentz. Lugentz
Oh,
Dort.
of course.
Yes.
He's from Montreal.
French?
I also saw that Tua is the youngest player since Marino to lead the NFL in passer rating. Since Marino, Stugotz, you've got a quarterback, and we still don't know. Today we'll find out something, correct? McDaniel told us.
The line moved a little bit. I found that interesting.
He said he hoped to have information on all 3 of his quarterbacks today, but the one that you're holding out hope for in terms of, I think Dolphin fans want him to play. I'm not certain where they all stand in terms of.
No, I think the majority.
Right.
I think the majority do want them to
There's
play.
3 of us. Not 4.
There are 4 of you if you include Mike Glennon's neck.
Forgot about that.
I'm here.
I was hoping you would
Ready for
talk.
the call.
I was hoping.
One last shot. Just I'm here if you need me.
Did any of you want Mike Glennon's neck in the game on Sunday when you kept seeing 3 points every 40 minutes in that
Could
game?
it have been worse? Could it have been worse?
No.
I mean, turnovers.
Rest
Yes, turnovers.
assured.
Yes, it could have been. With
No,
turnovers.
but what Glennon's great at is he'll give you 223 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. It's whether or not those interceptions turn into touchdowns for the other team. So
But that game was
it's exciting, though.
That game was such a strange game because I told you the other day I was legitimately, as someone who was rooting for the Dolphins to get into the playoffs, I was legitimately watching that game, and this happens to me very infrequently, and I didn't want the Dolphins to have the ball because all I did was think they're going to turn it over inside their 20-yard line, and it's going to decide this game. The only thing you can't do in that game is what Mike Glennon's neck would have done, which is scramble with those air cement Nikes toward the right sideline and throw Sauce Gardner an interception that would have gone to the Miami 4, and then
You've got me rolling out.
Mike, I meant to ask you because I was not aware of something else until yesterday either. I did not know that Idris Elba was a DJ.
Yeah, I think he was a DJ first. And he's always been DJing, and as his star has ascended, people have known about his DJing hobbies.
Jessica, you didn't know this because
What? I had no idea.
He's playing Coachella.
He's played Coachella.
What?
He's actually played the Terrace at Space for corporate events. I haven't seen him spin, but I've talked to people about him. Apparently, he's pretty solid.
Luther?
You just said.
I think he also played Harry and Meghan's wedding, if I'm not mistaken. I was reading about this. I was learning about it for the first time. I might be tricked by the internet on some
Enough
Photoshop.
of them, by the
No,
way. Jeez.
I haven't had
Jeez,
enough.
enough.
I'm
Tattletale.
downloading that audiobook as soon as it comes out. I want Prince Harry to read about his weird stuff that he probably shouldn't be telling anyone to me in his voice.
Didn't he just reveal that he took mushrooms at Courtney Cox Arquette's place?
He's a real chatty Cathy.
Yeah.
And if he was still in Buckingham Palace, I feel like,
Well, that's why he left.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
If I was Courtney
Stugotz.
Cox Arquette, I would be like, or Courtney Cox, I'd be like, Harry, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I think
You
she
know
was
what I mean?
Arquette at the time, but no, not Arquette. But they still have a very strong relationship, which brings a smile to my face.
Ooh, it's
Harry
already
and
out. I'm downloading it right now. Can we put this? Remember when we had a book club
Yeah, I read Colin Jost's book for no reason.
Me
apparently.
too. And we never talked about it
Never
on the
closed that
show.
loop.
And
You listened to it.
I listened to
I read it.
I listened to his audiobook. He
My
read
ears.
it to me. So I actually got the better experience
Yes.
because I heard it in his own words.
His own words
in his
and
own
he
voice.
has little ad libs too. What
Exactly.
a great experience.
And then we never talked about it on the show. That was like a year ago.
Waiting for the book club to meet up.
Welcome to the Le Batard Show experience of having an idea and not actually completing
But
it.
the thing is, two of us completed the idea. We're ready to reconvene as a book club.
I listened to Colin Joe's fucking autobiography for nothing.
That is correct. That is
Did you
how we
know
do
Jimmy
things
Buffett
around
saved his
here.
life? Did you know Jimmy Buffett saved his life? I do. I've been sitting on that for a year.
Billy, why are you done with the Royals? Because
They're
just-
not royals. That was taken away from them. They're just two people that want attention. That's it. Enough with them. Okay? You don't want to be part of the royal family, which I don't give a shit about, by the way. But you don't want to be part of the royal family? Stop talking about them. You know
don't-
what I mean?
you
You
don't-
want to have your own identity? Have your own identity and stop talking about the royals.
Wait, Billy, didn't you camp out and watch the royal wedding
Yeah, it was a
start to
gimmick.
finish?
Yeah. I didn't actually care.
What? You did?
Yeah, I live streamed it. Me and my
5
wife.
a.m.?
Yeah, me and my wife
Did
did
you
it
dress
on
up?
like Twitter Live. Yeah.
You wear a hat?
I didn't. I was supposed to have a royal expert that bailed on me at the last moment, which is my cousin who knew all about it. So she was going to walk me through it.
Wait, was this Harry and Meghan's or Kate and William?
This was Harry and Meghan's.
Wow.
Yeah, so she was going to walk me through everything that was happening, and then the last minute bailed, so it ended up just being me and my wife watching it. Yeah.
Why'd she bail? I mean, what happened?
I mean, I think she realized how ridiculous it was. It was like 5 a.m.
Right.
Yeah.
You had me fooled. I thought you cared at one point and
No.
then disbanded your care. You've never cared?
About anything.
That
Yeah.
tracks.
Yeah. I'm just saying, yeah, you guys don't find these people to be annoying at this point.
Yes, of course they're annoying.
So, like,
but there's
just-
still so many secrets being revealed. I'm a prisoner to knowing all about Harry's. Apparently, he's revealing about his sex life and all of these things that, I would listen to him read it to me in his voice. That's
Yeah.
all I'm saying. I watched 6 hours of the Netflix documentary in which none of this was revealed, by the way, which is infuriating.
I
It was
mean,
a waste of 6 hours.
It feels
they
like
could have
he's-
condensed it into one episode.
Yeah.
And now it feels like this is the juicy bits that I've been waiting for.
It feels like a lot of this might be made up to me. And also, like,
What?
he's playing with fire because at some point, and like, I might get in trouble for saying this, at some point we're going to find out he's not actually one of the royals, right? Like, that's the thing that we're all pretending like he is a royal, but like, come
What
on.
do you mean?
He was the product of an affair. Like, we know that he doesn't actually have the royal blood. Everybody
Well, if
knows
he's-
that.
What?
Yeah, he was.
Oh, he's got at
Princess
least
Diana.
he's got part of the royal blood.
No, Princess Diana married into the royal family, and she had an affair with her security guard who looks exactly like him. So he's not really a
Billy.
royal.
Allegedly.
You claim you don't care, and you're
You
peddling.
really
a-
piece this one together.
I'm
Conspiracy
just,
theory
I'm
about
just
Princess
saying,
Diana.
like, at some point, he's gonna push them.
I love it.
He's gonna push them to the point where they're like,
Time
"Hey,
to throw
buddy,
away all journalistic credibility and get reckless. Here is something we like to call reckless speculation.
you don't think he's pushing them to that
You're
point
good.
where they're like, hey, buddy, enough of this. Like, you're not sucking off of this teat anymore. We're not giving you any more royal monies or any of that stuff."
That's what I was expecting. That's the thing I
He
was.
dropped him,
That's,
Dookie.
that's
I don't
the
like
thing.
this.
That is what I was expecting. That he's breaking the news. That's not something I've heard. That you're accusing. This is the
You
first
have
time.
not heard this? Google it. It takes 2 seconds.
It's on. It's on the
Look
internet.
it up.
I have
This has
not.
long been a thing.
That he is not. Well, not surprisingly, I do not follow the fascination
See,
around.
Dan actually doesn't care, Billy. You care. You know the deepest, darkest conspiracy theories about these people. You care,
I don't
Well,
care.
I got it from his cousin. I mean,
Exactly.
Yeah.
but you cared enough to ask.
You're saying that at some point, the palace is going to send out a news release
Oh, yeah.
in which they say, "Hey, that guy doesn't have royal blood."
You don't think that's coming? I'm surprised they've let it get this far, to be honest with you.
Well, wouldn't it have
Their
come-
history, they're just letting this chatty Cathy run around and spill all these beans.
But wouldn't that look bad on them? That's the thing, right? Is the machine of the monarchy, like everything is through the prism of how does this look? And so I think they're perfectly content right now. Just have him out there, saying all kinds of shit and putting documentaries out there and books and all that stuff. And they'll use their preferred tabloids to smear him and smear Meghan. And that's sort of I don't think they want it out there that they've got some issue in their ranks.
What's
Well,
the
that's out
end
there.
game here for both of them, by the way?
Probably
well, to be
make,
less famous and retreat from the public eye, clearly.
I was gonna say probably to make money.
Withdraw from the pressures of celebrity by availing yourselves of every detail of your life.
I think the motivation is equal parts like we need to make an income and we can't have normal people jobs, and also we feel very slighted, slighted is an understatement, by the tabloids and the British press and the institution of the monarchy, and so we're going to air out all of their dirty laundry now.
That's
and
the end game, Spence.
We don't give a shit.
The end game is we're gonna take this whole thing down with us. Like I think they
Well,
want.
it's all he's got. I mean,
No.
yes.
No, that's not the end game. They were a part of a royal family. They decided they wanted to come to America, and they saw the royal family here was the Kardashians. And the end game is keeping up with Meghan and Harry. That is the end game.
You don't think they want to take down this big? I think. Oh,
They
Megan probably
definitely
would.
do.
There
Meghan-
isn't enough
yes.
dirt on the royal family. Come on, what are they doing?
I mean, yeah.
What are you achieving by telling everybody that Courtney Cox's toilet talked to you one time?
That's the thing. Why is Courtney catching strays in all of this? You know what I mean? If anything, she's just being a good friend to Harry. You
I
know?
don't think she's catching any strays. I think this is good for her.
I
We're
want to go to
talking
a Courtney
we're talking
Cox
about
party
her right now.
I want to see the toilet.
Jessica, you were, and most people were disappointed by the 6-part Netflix series, even though it got consumed at a very high popularity rate. The general appraisal of it was that it didn't have all of this juicy stuff that the book has, and
Yes.
he's really separating. He's doing a good job of separating his valuable information so he could sell multiple things.
It was so boring. Like I didn't know what to expect. I thought they were going. I mean, like they revealed stuff that I thought like I already knew. Like, yeah, I know that the British tabloids were incredibly racist towards Meghan Markle, and that the Institute, like a lot of it was already in that Oprah interview last year that everyone was watching. So I didn't learn anything from it, and it was super long. It was basically just like, here's our story of our relationship and our life for the last 6 years, and that was it. And then this book comes out, and a bunch of it gets leaked, and there's all this stuff in here about William shoving Harry in a fight and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, where was that in the doc? What was the point of this documentary?
What is the best stuff that has been leaked from the book? What are the best of the juicy morsels? And Billy, have you consumed any of these?
Well, I just see headlines, and I don't know if they're real or fake. So for me, they're just all real. Like he's denied that he was bragging about murdering people, but that came out. Then I also saw a thing where they said he was basically created just to harvest organs for William, and that sounds like it's probably fake, but I want to believe that one to be real. So
Not out of the realm of possibility
that's
for
the
the
thing.
Royals.
I guess I don't really know what's real and what isn't, so I choose to just believe it's all real.
One of my favorite things during the show is that our support staff sends little messages in Slack sometimes reacting to what we're saying, and I just saw a little laughing emoji pop up when Billy said that. It made my morning. And for people who don't care about the royal family, we have spent more time on them than the Theragun being thrown on the Miami Heat court last night. So I think I'm counting that as a victory.
Also,
for myself.
if you watch the video of the Theragun, it wasn't a throw.
Right.
It was sort
A
of like an
toss.
no,
It was a
no, no.
perreta, yeah.
Yeah, it was like I'm getting angry and I'm just gonna chuck something. And
Right.
like he sort of hit this thing, and through the force of how he hit it, the Theragun went flying. So he didn't physically grab the Theragun and chuck it on the court. It was collateral damage from his display of rage.
And then the court just assisted with a slide.
yeah.
Yeah.
Put so much damn
Yeah.
lacquer on that thing.
Would most people consider the Kardashians to be our royal family? Is that
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's them or the Mannings, right?
No,
Dead-
there's a family I don't care about. The
Dead-
Kardashians, not the Mannings. I'd watch a Mannings documentary.
So would I.
Can you guys imagine for me?
Aren't you getting to it?
Yes.
It's called Peyton's
Peyton's
Places.
Places.
It's streaming now
Doesn't
on
Eli
ESPN
have
Plus.
places now too?
Yeah.
Eli has places.
Yeah, I'm getting to it. Yeah.
How mortified do you guys think Deadman was at how that escalated on him and results in an ejection in a game where they are really undermanned? He did not expect that to end up where it was when his rage began. Correct? That was largely an accident, or it went worse than he intended for it
In
to.
a 1-point game, that technical foul is a big deal. Yeah. That one free throw that you give away, that's really, and like Jimmy Butler went off on Eric Spoelstra last year. Dwayne Deadman, like having a go, and having a display so unprofessional that a Theragun ends up on the floor? That's insane.
One of the things that I can't help, Stugotz, in the changes in basketball, I know you complain about, come on, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, play some games. And people are pretty mad about how load management has escalated so that your stars aren't playing all the games when you buy tickets. I do not actually know, because I have not asked him, how Pat Riley feels about how many things have changed in the sport. But once upon a time, Deadman would have been waived before that Theragun got to midcourt. The idea that Dwayne Deadman is still on the team after doing something like that runs that counter, and it's not just because he did that, right? It's also because Dwayne Deadman hasn't been very good for them. Dwayne Deadman was somebody who could be concealed and be good enough as a backup center last year, but he is no longer somebody. I mean, he's had all his minutes taken away, and I'm thinking that that's where part of his frustration lies, that he's watching a younger player. This guy's older, Stugotz, and he's watching a younger player, Highsmith, be out there in all the important moments and take all of his minutes, and without knowing anything else, I'm assuming that's accumulated frustration, that Deadman was enjoying being out there as a backup center and hitting the occasional important three.
I'm on his SPO track right now, and Deadman cannot be traded because of his contract status until January 15th. I imagine we'll see some movement.
And he's also got a non-guaranteed second year, so they could waive him at the end of this year and not suffer any cap penalty.
If I'm him, I blame the Theragun. It was on the third setting.
Right.
At
You
that
never know
point,
what happens
it's
on the
out.
third. Once it gets
Exactly.
out of your hand on the
Well, if you were
third
just
setting,
a
it can go anywhere.
Conventional massager that's plugged into an outlet. It doesn't go onto the court.
It's kind of bullshit, right? Because, like, if he was Jimmy Butler, we'd just be hearing how, like, he cares so much. He's a Riley guy. This is the culture. Someone who cares this much that they throw a tantrum, that they're throwing things on the court. Like, he gets it. He's really a Heat guy. But because it's Dwayne Deadman, it's like, wow, we shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, because they're 12 points worse when he's on the floor than when he's off the floor.
Well, is it culture or
and all of a
not?
sudden, it's not the culture.
Dwayne Deadman has made $46.7 million in his 10-year career.
Jesus.
God bless him.
That's a great
That's
game.
so many Theraguns.
Without even telling us things about Prince William.
It's good to see he
Power
still
to him.
cares.
Harry
I
should have
mean,
been an NBA player.
I feel like there's an incredible, because of the way salaries have gone up, I think Chase Daniels made $33 million. Like, there's a game to be played of the cumulative salaries of fairly also ran athletes and how they're set for life with sort of bang average careers.
Daniel's starting 5 games in his career, and I think it's more than $33 million. So, again, you guys are shocked by this, but less than a Chris Cody will get you.
See you, Gary.